If a child is not admitted to the hospital, that can be for such a wide range of reasons.
That's a green light to say, yep, they're okay to be worked with on an outpatient basis, which I think is always preferable if possible.
Any suicide attempt is significant and should be taken seriously. So if the hospital is recommending discharge, that doesn't mean, oh, everyone is fine, go back to what we were doing before. I don't even think we need to call that number and make that appointment. Well, although they didn't need to be in the hospital, we need to do something. We need to do something differently.
The most important thing we need to do when we have a teen with intense suicidal thoughts or in a suicidal crisis is create a safety plan. That is evidence-based practice that needs to be done for all teens in an acute phase of suicidality.
We did have a safety plan. We used it many times. The safety plan kind of goes through who do you feel safe with, who can you reach out to, and your child lists these people or things that make them feel better. For my daughter, it was a cousin or her brother, and she would reach out to them and they wouldn't ask questions. They knew the safety plan too. They knew they were part of it. For her, it was like a lot of photography or being outdoors or art. So those people knew that if she reached out, we would start to do that, something to make them feel good, not to talk about the day-to-day until she was safe in talking about that.
There's skill building built into safety planning. I mean, the first is recognizing what activates a suicidal crisis, and then helping the child to problem solve about what can they do to cope, what can they do to distract themselves. And then if that doesn't work, what are places or people they can go to for distraction? And if that doesn't work, who are people, family, friends, that they can go to for help? Because sometimes who they go to for distraction is different than who they go to for help. If that doesn't work, who are professionals that they can go to? And really being specific, like if they say, well, I could listen to music, what music? Because when someone's in a state of suicidal danger, often the emotional part of their brain overwhelms the logical part of their brain. They can forget what they would normally do. By writing down very specifically what they can do, it's a memory cue.
A lot of times kids aren't just in one home. Maybe there's a grandparent, maybe there's a neighbor that they stay with. So everyone who's going to be part of keeping a child safe should have a working awareness of how to do that if they're part of that support network.
Are there things that they should say or things that they shouldn't say? Are there key people to get into the child's life or key people to keep at bay? And then who do they contact if they're concerned about their child?
It's really important that your child have a lot of input into this plan, because otherwise they're not going to adhere to it.
It can't be like tons of bullet points on a page or like 8 pages long. You're going to throw that away and no one's going to pay attention to it. It should be laminated, goes on the refrigerator.
Other crucial elements of a safety plan, identifying what are the ways that the person is thinking about killing themselves, and then what steps can be taken to make it less easy for them to gain access. We know from decades and decades of research that when people settle on the way that they're going to kill themselves, they usually don't change around to other methods. They stick with whatever method they've decided on. I can't guarantee you that if you limit your child's access to 1, 2, 3 methods that is what they've thought about and what they've said they would use, or that they've attempted in the past, that they won't try something different. But that's relatively unusual. So ask them, and know that you may need to ask more than once, and have them give you a list of what are the top 3 ways they've thought of to kill themselves, and focus the safety plan on how do I limit their access to those ways. And that's something that the provider should, help you think about and problem solve around.
So I think one of the biggest things that we had to do to prepare for a child to return home was to prepare the house to make it safer. My task was to take a closet that we had. We replaced the doorknob with one that would lock, and then we were able to sort of accumulate all the things from our house which could be potentially dangerous. Things like prescription and non-prescription drugs, alcohol, any other toxic chemicals, strangulation risk, things like ties and cords and cables, and that was an inconvenience. We're not able to access the things we were normally used to accessing. But at the same time, it did provide sort of a modicum of confidence that our child was not going to be able to easily attempt suicide, that there would be some effort involved that would hopefully then prevent them from doing so.
We locked up the knives, and it broke my heart on several levels. I mean, the fact that she asked us to do that, the fact that she might take a knife to take her life was unbelievable. I'm a cook. I love to cook. My knives are out all the time. I use them every day. So it was just so weird to do that, but we did it, of course, I mean, for a long time.
The most lethal means we know are firearms. So this is not to say you can't own a firearm, but they need to be stored safely.
As a parent, I need to be a cheerleader. When I see you using skills, I need to be ready to say, that was an awesome job of just taking a deep breath when you needed that. That was really wonderful that instead of going right to thinking about harming yourself or taking action on that, that you paused, that you made sure you used your muscle relaxation, that you went to your script that helped you feel more empowered to go through a difficult situation. I think it's a lot about reinforcing and then helping promote that sense of that you may not feel like you have control of everything, but you do have control of your immediate next step. So a few seconds at a time, a few minutes at a time,